An entitled Karen neighbor demands that I host a party as the newest neighbor in the neighborhood, claiming that this is a tradition that everybody takes part in when they move into the neighborhood, and that I have 2 weeks to schedule this party or else there will be consequences. But after dealing with this lady's crazy entitled attitude, as well as hearing awful things about her and her behavior, I decided I wasn't hosting any kind of party for anybody that I just met. And now I'm finding myself on the other end of this entitled Karen's rage. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female and I've just moved into a neighborhood a couple of weeks ago, and so far it's been very peaceful. From the neighbors that have come up to me, everyone has been very friendly and welcoming, which I really appreciate since I'm not from around this town. I have noticed that some neighbors have been having frequent parties the last couple of weeks, but I chalked it up to being some kind of celebration since I know that one neighbor's daughter just graduated high school and July 4th is coming up. I have been to some of these parties to get to know the other neighbors better, and one person who really stands out to me is this one neighbor who we will call Melinda. At a neighbor's party, she came up to me and introduced herself, and we talked for a while, and this is when I learned about the newest neighbor party. Apparently, the newest neighbor is supposed to throw a grand party, showing off their home and entertaining the neighborhood as a whole thing. Melinda told me that since I was the newest neighbor, it was my duty to do so. Now, I thought that Melinda was joking when she told me this, as it really didn't make sense to me, so I just kind of laughed. But when I did this seemed to have made Melinda a little angry, as she said she was serious, and it was a tradition in the neighborhood, and that I had 2 weeks to host a party. Now, this was 2 weeks ago, and yesterday was the day I was supposed to do this tradition, but I happily stayed in bed. Melinda and a couple neighbors came and rang on the doorbell, but I just ignored them and binge-watched some TV shows. I decided to go out today, and Melinda came up to me furious, saying that I didn't do the tradition and that I was a bad neighbor. Now, the thing is, however, I asked some other people about this supposed tradition, and they have heard that some people do it, but mostly never really mention it to be a reoccurring thing that each new person in the neighborhood should do. I told Melinda that I would not be throwing a party anytime soon, as I didn't feel comfortable with the thought of people coming into my home, let alone with me having to entertain them. When I said this, Melinda actually got angry with me, saying that the neighborhood is like a big family, and then she stormed off in a rage. Now, I just let this go, but the neighbors that were with Melinda at my house that night have been telling me that I should have just done the party and that I'm leaving a bad first impression. Now, I think my reasoning is completely justified, but right now I'm wondering if I'm the jerk for not entertaining these people, because right now I really don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update to this story. Here's what they had to say. Okay, so first of all, I want to thank everybody for the comments and the suggestions. I see now that I could have told Melinda that I wasn't comfortable, but from the 1 or 2 interactions that I've had with her, it sounds like she would not have cared regardless, but I don't want to assume. A lot of suggestions were very insightful and funny, and after I posted this, I went to sleep and decided to go out today. I didn't bump into Melinda or any of her friends, so I'm not sure about her. However, some neighbors have offered to help me continue to move in by bringing boxes in. One of these neighbors, who we will call John, has been living here for a while, and he told me he is not fond of Melinda, and from what he has seen, some neighbors either try to avoid her or just put up with her for the sake of it. But unfortunately, I eventually did have my own interaction with Melinda. Fast forward just a little bit, and Melinda came up to me. I thought that since she didn't bother me the other day, today might be the same, but it wasn't. I got out of my car and I saw Melinda ringing my doorbell like crazy and knocking really hard. So I went up to her and I asked her what she was doing. And when she looked at me, she looked really angry and demanded an apology. But I asked her, wait, an apology for what? And she said to me, "You're going around asking people about the tradition. If you really feel so highly about it, then you should just do it like everybody else has." And right about now, I really think she is crazy. I then told her to get off my property and to leave me alone. And I just left her outside because I didn't want to deal with her, but I heard something fall outside, and when I go to check a few minutes later, she actually kicked one of my plants over. Now, fast forward another day, and it was the 4th of July, and everyone was having a big gathering in the street like a block party. I went to the store to get things for it, such as hot dogs and burgers and some snacks for kids and adults, because I couldn't cook anything personally. And the party itself is still happening as I'm writing this from the bathroom. We had all our stuff labeled so that everyone knew who to thank, and the party was going well until I see Melinda at my area of food, and I see her breaking some of it open. And normally I would be fine with this if there wasn't already hot dogs and hamburgers from other neighbors already being cooked, but the fact that she skipped over about 3 other people's stuff just to open it is honestly so bothersome. I went to her and I asked her what she was doing, and I guess she did didn't expect to see me because she started going on this huge rant about me getting the wrong brand of hot dogs and stuff like that, and how I need to think about the neighborhood. Now, before I could say anything, she just walked off, and luckily, a neighbor saw my stuff open and offered to take it and put it in the freezer until it's needed. And right now, I'm currently in my house typing up all of this. I feel like I'm in some kind of weird TV show. This personal vendetta stuff is weird and very annoying, and the fact that it's over some home welcoming party that I never agreed to is honestly completely insane. Okay, this is hilarious to me and incredibly weird. For starters, you can't just force someone to have a party that they never agreed to. Like, that is not gonna happen, and that's not okay. But secondly, the fact that she would go around and be like, oh, I demand an apology, after she literally tried to force you to have a party, in my opinion, is so crazy. Because I'm right there with the original poster. There's no way on earth I'm gonna let strangers into my house, regardless of how much of a family this neighborhood claims to be. Like, that is super inappropriate and definitely not happening. Like, you just met these people. You don't know anything about them. And for this Melinda lady to sit here and be like, oh, it's required. You have 2 weeks to host a party. Like, that is just so weird and creepy to me. It's almost like she's setting you up so she can rob you or try to, like, I don't know, do something to your house. Like, no, I'm not gonna show off my house and allow you to trounce all over the place. And I'm definitely not obligated to do so either. So hopefully you can get away from Melinda, because the way she's acting, in my opinion, is completely insane. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for kicking my family out of my house after they were being unfairly harsh about my husband's cooking? Because right now they're saying that I overreacted and that I let my temper get the best of me in the worst way possible. But at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start off with a bit of context, my husband grew up in a very unhealthy environment. He and his siblings were raised on a farm, were never sent to school, never given any formal education, and never gained any skills with numbers or with reading. The boys were delegated to outdoor work where they did manual labor and learned to maintain farming equipment. The girls were delegated to indoor work and cooking and cleaning. The boys were never allowed in the kitchen, not even to get a drink. Their house was bare bones. And before my husband ran away at 18 years old, he never even saw a microwave. They were conditioned to stay and continue this, marry there, and raise their kids the exact same way. But my husband wanted more, and knowing his family would be unsupportive and possibly try to stop him, he ran away in the middle of the night. He left being unable to read or write, with no money, no outside social interactions, and having no life skills. Well, he has come a long way since then. He is still working on his education, but he also holds a job. He is an amazing, thoughtful man. Just before we got married, he asked me if I would teach him how to cook, and he wanted this because he wanted to do more for me and for the future kids. He wanted to cook for us and provide for us. He wants to be better than what he was raised to be. It's been a little over 2 years now, and he has grown significantly. But for someone who had to start at the most basic things that even kids know how to do, it means he's had some bumps along the way being in his 20s when he started to learn anything. But he loves cooking and he does his best. It's not always great, but there's always something to compliment. And while I am always honest with him, I always make sure if I have to give a lot of constructive criticism, that I pair it with at least one thing that's positive. Now, my family knows all of this. They know all the details of his past, and they know that he started with no prior knowledge. They know that he didn't step foot inside of a real kitchen for almost 20 years. So when he hosted them for dinner, and my parents and siblings were so awful about the food and my husband's abilities, and shamed him for not being better after all this time, I lost my cool with them. I told them he tried so hard, and the least they could do was be grateful. And it was not as bad as they claimed. My grandparents even said so. But my parents and siblings told him to just give up because clearly he would never be any good. After that, I kicked them out, and I told them that I would not stand for them treating my husband this way. My mom even commented that the illiterate in him must be dumb in other things as well. My husband was crushed. He loves my family, and hearing them respond as they did was really tough for him. I later got inundated with text messages from parents and siblings about how rude I was for kicking them out, and how I let my temper get the best of me in the worst way. So seriously, am I the jerk for kicking them out? Because I'm still upset about this, and I seriously don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all, because these people needed to be kicked out of your house. They seriously showed up for dinner, had someone else cooking for them, and then had the audacity to be like, oh wow, you really suck at cooking. The illiterate person inside of you must be dumb in other ways too. You should just give up on cooking altogether. You'll never be good. Like, seriously? What is going on right now? That is not the right way to be a house guest, and that is no way to talk to anybody, let alone someone that you're claiming is your family. Like, that is actually insane to me, and I just will never understand why they would ever think that's a good idea. But you know what? At least you now know how toxic these people truly are, and you know that they cannot be trusted in this way ever again, because their reaction to this cooking is honestly so atrocious, and your husband did not deserve that in the slightest. Would I be the jerk for not reimbursing my in-laws after they invited themselves onto my family's vacation? Because right now they are very upset about us changing our hotel plans, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my in-laws have wanted to go on vacation with me and my husband ever since our first child was born. I was always against going together, while my husband felt indifferent towards it, but supported me in my wishes. His parents are nice people, but they do like to control everyone around them, and a vacation with them would just not feel like a vacation at all. For this summer, my husband and I had booked a rather expensive family hotel and got insurance so we could cancel should something better come along. His parents asked for our travel details, which admittedly we did not find strange, because my husband always shares these things with them. I mean, they pretty much know every detail about our lives. Last week, my husband and I decided to change our plans. It is still 3 weeks until our vacation, but we felt a bit bad about the hotel that we had booked initially, but it is also very popular. And as far as I know, they already had a waiting list anyways, leaving me saying, okay, so far so good. Well, yesterday, my in-laws were at our place, and when we told them about our new plans, they just blew up on us. Apparently, they had wanted to surprise us and have booked the same week at the same hotel. They don't like the hotel or the destination, but they finally wanted an opportunity to go on a family vacation with us. They also haven't gotten any insurance, so if they cancel now, they will still be charged about half the price. Now, they are not poor, but they are both retired, and losing this kind of money will hurt them a lot. They don't plan on going without us. Of course, my husband's side of the family is now mad at us, and they're blaming everything on us. They're upset that we chose an expensive hotel, and that we changed our plans, and that we didn't agree to going on vacation with my in-laws in the first place. They say that we basically forced them to be sneaky about it. Now, here's why I think I may be the jerk in this situation. My husband wants to reimburse them. Admittedly, we could afford it, but I still don't want to do it. I say that they need to learn their lesson, or we will be dealing with this scenario every year from now on. However, my husband's siblings say that I'm the jerk because in the end, my husband will be the one suffering. Knowing my in-laws, they will hold this against us for years to come, and it will be an uncomfortable topic on every family event. I have learned to ignore them, but my husband has been conditioned to cater to their needs and feels guilty if he doesn't. So am I the jerk for not wanting to reimburse them? Because right now I am super frustrated, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Like, for starters, this is not your problem. They're trying to make it be like, oh, you forced us to be sneaky about this. If you had just let us go on vacation in the first place, none of this would have happened. But it's like, wait a second, let's back up a second. How is this anybody's fault except for their own that they booked a hotel that they didn't tell anybody about? Like, seriously, this is not anybody's fault except for the in-laws. Why on earth would they invite themselves onto your vacation after you made it pretty clear that you don't want to go on vacation with them? Like, what is happening right now? That is so unfair for you. And you know what? It doesn't help that everybody's trying to like pin this on you and your husband, because this literally is not your fault. So honestly, if you choose not to reimburse them, in my opinion, not only is that the only option, but you definitely would not be the jerk. And if anything, this is going to be a valuable lesson to your in-laws that they need to learn how to respect your boundaries. Am I the jerk for kicking my sister and her family out of my house in the middle of the night after they nearly caused my dog to pass away? Here's what happened. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I moved to the United States 3 years ago with my husband after we got our green cards approved. We moved to Central Florida, which is notorious for its tourist attractions. Ever since we moved, my sister, her husband, and my niece and nephew have visited every year around this time. We love to host and even bought a house to accommodate family and friends that might be visiting. The issue started on the third day of their visit. I left the night before for a night shift at the hospital, and my husband had a very early one. When I got home by 1:00 p.m., I found my 9-month-old puppy locked in the garage. He doesn't have access to the area because there is no AC in there. And this is summer in Florida, so it is very hot. And on top of that, I am afraid he will run away when the door opens. It was pure luck that he was laying down so close to the entry door, or I could have run him over before I saw him. He was lethargic and breathing heavily, so I immediately took him to the vet. I get there and I find out he was overheated and dehydrated, and he could have passed away if I hadn't got there when I did. I finally returned home at about 7:00 p.m., and when I entered, I instantly saw that my favorite vase that I got from my late grandma wasn't in the center table, but when I open the trash, I find it there in pieces. And I was already fuming about the puppy, and now I see this. When I pulled up the images from the house cameras I had recently installed because of the dog, I saw that the 9-year-old kid said goodbye to my husband and their parents, and when they left, they proceeded to discuss whose turn it was to break something in my house. My nephew argued that he had done it last year, so it was my niece's turn. My niece then proceeded to throw some grass on the floor, at which point my puppy got fussy and started barking. They got annoyed, so they took him to the garage before returning, and then they picked up my vase and smashed it on the floor. When their parents returned, they simply said that they had an accident. My sister cleaned it up and they made their way to the parks. My blood boiled. I immediately packed their bags and I put it by the door, with my husband arriving and helping out as well. As soon as they arrived, I told them how their kids behaved, that they caused harm to my dog, and they broke something irreplaceable to me. My sister tried to argue that it was an accident and that they're just kids, but I just shoved the video into her face. But even then, she still tried to argue, saying that we were family and she didn't have money to pay for a hotel for the rest of the trip, and that it was the middle of the night. I simply stated that I didn't care, and she had to take her little monsters away from me. She left screaming and then crying. And obviously, this morning I woke up to several messages in the family group chat calling me all sorts of names for kicking them out in a different country and how I was being mean. My mom wrote about how disappointed she was at me, but I just didn't have the energy to reply to anyone back yet. So before I do that, I really need to know, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm still angry and I just don't know what to do. No, you are not the jerk. The fact that these people not only destroyed like an irreplaceable family heirloom of some kind, but also nearly caused your dog to pass away is more than enough reason for these people to be kicked out permanently. Like, that is so dangerous. That dog sat in a garage without any air conditioning in the boiling heat of Florida of all places. Like, you can't just do that and expect there not to be some kind of consequences. And it's also pretty damaging to me that the sister is like, oh, but it's okay, they're just kids. This is all just an accident. Come on, we're family. But it's like, lady, there is literally evidence pointing against your stupid kids. So no, you are not the jerk for kicking them out, because if these people are seriously going to disrespect your home, then in my opinion, they should not be allowed to ever come back in it. Am I the jerk for refusing to clear out my car on short notice just so I could give my boyfriend's coworker a ride home? Here's what happened. So I'm a 28-year-old female, and I had a girls' night out while my boyfriend was working. He works second shift at a hotel. We share a car right now, and I planned on picking him up after his shift and planned my girls' nights out accordingly. We have a lot of stuff in the car, and we made plans for the middle of the week when we were both off so that we could clean it out. For reference, we live on the 3rd floor apartment with no elevator, so it's hard for me to move it all by myself on short notice, especially in such a quick time frame. Some of it is heavy, plus most of it is his garbage. I'm not his mom and I shouldn't have to clean up after him, but I did offer to help with about half of it because I was tired of our car being a storage unit. Well, his coworker rides a bike to work and found out that his apartment complex isn't far from ours, and my boyfriend volunteered us to give this guy a ride home without asking me first, but we would have to fit not only him but his bike as well. So my boyfriend demands that I end my hangout early so that I can go home and clean out the car by myself, with him saying that he can't help out because he's working. This way he can give his colleague a ride home and fit his bike in the car. Well, when he said this, I just said no. I'm literally with my friends, and I shouldn't have to clean out what's mostly his stuff anyways by myself and have to carry it up 3 flights of steps to our 3rd floor apartment last minute just because he decided to volunteer me for something without asking me first. Now, as a bit of context, he has a terrible habit of volunteering us for stuff without consulting me, and I've just kind of always went along with it because I didn't want to be a jerk, but this time I put my foot down. I said that he needs to ask me first. Well, he then said that there is no time, and I should understand so that this poor man doesn't have to bike home in the dark. Well, ever since I refused last night, my boyfriend has been acting very sullen with me. So it really begs the question, am I the jerk for refusing to clear out my car on such short notice just so my boyfriend can give his coworker a ride home? Because right now I'm still frustrated and I just don't know what to do. No, you're definitely not the jerk. Your boyfriend volunteered you for something that you literally could not fulfill. And he literally did this in such a selfish way that put you on the spot for something you didn't even want to do. I can't stand when people do this to somebody, or when it happens to me from somebody that I know. Like, seriously, don't volunteer me for something like that. It just puts me in a weird situation, and I find it incredibly manipulative. Because if I don't say yes, it's gonna make everybody feel bad. You're gonna feel bad because I said no, but also you're gonna make me feel guilty because I made you look bad in front of your friend. Like, if he really wanted this to happen, he could have easily just called you and been like, hey, how can we make this work? Is this even an option, or do we need to wait and do this another time? But instead, he volunteers you on the spot and then gets upset when you're like, no, I can't do that. That's unreasonable. Which, by the way, in case you were wondering, it is absolutely unreasonable for him to act this way. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and I know if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.